who if there is a developed any potential, so the uh, conductivity of the conductor will be reduced. That's why each conductor cannot contain an electrostatic field within, right? Second point of a perfect conductor is that a conductor is called a equipotential body, right? Conductor is called a equipotential body. Now, if you take a pieces of wire, copper wire, and if you measure the potential of any 2 point of the uh, conductor, then you see that the potential of each point is equal, right? Potential of each point is equal to equal. That's why the second point is very important, that conductor is called a equipotential body. That means the each point of the conductor, each point of the conductor has a equal potential. And another important uh, formula, Maxwell formula, that obey the conductor, that is capital E is equals to minus of del V. It is already proved. It is already proved. That means electrostatic field in a conductor, or the conductor, gradient of the potential of the conductor is equals to 0, right? This equation is already proved in previous class, right? Now, another important characteristics of the conductor in respect of current density, we know that uh, capital J is denoted as a current density of the conductor, and it is expressed uh, the equation capital J is equal to sigma into E. That sigma is the conductivity or conductance of the conductor, 1 by resistivity. So, a perfect conductor, in a perfect conductor, the sigma tends to infinity. A perfect conductor, sigma tends to infinity. Okay. For copper, for aluminum, for iron, all the conducting elements, okay, whose sigma is tends to infinity. That means it behaves like a short circuit, right? Okay. Now, fifth point, okay, in a perfect conductor, electrostatic field within the conductor it tends to 0 because sigma tends to infinity. As sigma tends to infinity, that means conductivity, if the conductivity is very high in a conductor, so there are no electric uh, field inside over it. That's why if sigma tends to infinity, E tends to 0 for a perfect conductor. Okay. Now, next is the conclusion. So, the conclusion of a perfect conductor in an electrostatic field are three different points you have to remember. First one, E is equals to 0. That means electric field strength is equals to 0. Rho V is equals to 0. That means the volume charge density is equals to 0, and VAB, the potential between 2 points, between any 2 points of the conductor is equals to 0. So these are the three important parameters you have to remember for inside a conductor. E is equals to 0, Okay, rho V is equals to 0 and VAB is equals to 0 for a perfect conductor. Okay. Now, next is the one important law we have to remember in concept of electromagnetism, electromagnetic field, that is Ohm's law in point form. We have already know the concept of Ohm's law, right? According to our Ohm's law, I is equals to V by R, or R is equals to V by I. Now, this R is the resistance of the conductor, and we know that the resistance of the conductor is equal to rho L by A. Here, rho L by A. Rho is the resistivity of the material, L is the length of the conductor, A is the area of the conductor. So, this resistivity equation we can modify by rho C by L by S. Area is the surface area, S is denoted by the surface area, L is the length of the conductor, and rho is the resistivity. Rho C. So, rho C is equals to, here rho C is equals to 1 by sigma, that represents the resistivity of the material. So, this equation is very useful for determining the resistance of a conductor of a uniform cross-sectional area. Now, the Ohm's law in point form, that represents in respect of dot convection, right? So, the basic definitions of the resistance, conventional definitions of the resistance, the ratio of the potential difference between the two ends of the conductor to the current through the conductor flow through this conductor. So, R is equal to V by I. That is our conventional equation. But here, V is represented with respect to electromagnetic fields equation. We can write it V is equals to, already we know that V is equals to integration of E dot di. Integration of E dot di. It is already known that V is equals to integration of E dot di. As well as I is also denoted as sigma E dot ds. Now, this equation number 170, that Ohm's law in point form, it is also denoted as the Ohm's law in electromagnetic field form, right? So, we can write the Ohm's law as a conventional equation, R is equal to V by I, and if we write R is equal to integration of E dot di divided by integration of sigma E dot ds, this is called the Ohm's law in point form, and it is also called Ohm's law in integral form. Okay. Now, next topic is the dielectric constant and strength. Dielectric constant and strength. You have to remember this formula, and basic things and formula you have to remember all time. If you forget the calculation, but you have to remember the concept of any topics and is basic formula in electromagnetism, right? Now, we have already know two important equations. Okay, one is D is equals to epsilon not E plus P, and another is P is equals to Xc epsilon not into E. This P is called polarization of the, this P is called the polarization of the dielectrics. So equation number 71 and equation number 72, this is based on dielectric constant and polarization of the dielectric constant. Now, equation number 72 said that the polarization P will vary directly to the electric field E. Now, what do you mean by polarization? The polarization means that if in a electrostatic field, if any electrostatic field, there are numbers of the point charge are there. Some of the point charge are positive in nature, in polarity, and some of the charges are negative in polarity. Now, if there is the electric field you apply over it, then the electric field is displaced the positive charge one side with a force of Q into E, plus Q into E, and the negative charge is displaced another side with a force of plus Q into minus Q. So if the positive charges and negative charges are separated by this electric field, polarization basically means the separation of the polarities of the charges, right? And this is basically represent as capital P is equals to Xc epsilon naught into E. Well, Xc is the electric susceptibility of the material. Each of electric material have its susceptibility, and epsilon naught is the permeability of the medium, and E is the applied electric field. Now, this equation number 172 that said that the polarization P will vary directly to the applied electric field, because electric susceptibility Xc and the epsilon naught, that is the electric permeability, these two parameters are constant. That's why P is proportional to E, right? That's why the P is proportional to E. That's why this equation number 172 said that the polarization P will vary directly as the applied field, right? Now, these two equations we analyze further. Now, if we put the value of P, that means Xc epsilon naught E, in equation 171. So, equation 171 modified to D is equals to epsilon naught into E, put the value of P here. So, Xc into epsilon naught into E. Now, if we common E and epsilon over it, then equation number 171 is modified to another equation. Okay. So, that is epsilon naught into 1 plus Xc into E. Right? Now, this 1 plus Xc is denoted as another constant, that is equal to epsilon R. And this epsilon R is denoted as relative permeability of the medium. Right? Epsilon naught is the permeability of the free space, and epsilon R that is denoted as a relative permeability of the medium. So equation modified to D is equals to epsilon naught into epsilon R into E, because 1 plus xc is the another constant, that is equals to epsilon R, which is denoted as a relative permeability. Now the multiplication of the permeability of the free space and the relative permeability, that is denoted as a permeability of the medium. So epsilon is equals to epsilon naught into epsilon R. So this equation further modified to D is equals to epsilon into E, where epsilon naught is equals to epsilon is equals to epsilon naught into epsilon R. Now from this equation epsilon is equals to epsilon naught into epsilon R. So epsilon R we can write epsilon by epsilon naught. So relative permeability of the medium, we can express that it is the ratio of the permeability of the dielectric with respect to the permeability of the free space. So relative permeability epsilon R, that is denoted as the ratio of the permeability of the medium or permeability of the dielectric with respect to the permeability of the free space. And we already know that the epsilon naught, whose constant value is 10 to the power minus 9 into 36 pi. It is already familiar. Okay. So from equation number 171 to 175, these are all the permeability of the medium, permeability of the dielectric. Okay, one epsilon is the permeability of the medium, epsilon naught is the permeability of the free space, and epsilon R is the permeability of the relative permeability of the medium. Okay, so dielectric constant or relative permeability, I already discussed that it is the ratio of the permeability of the dielectric to the permeability of the free space. So this is another equation. 176 is an important equation when you solve the electrostatic problem regarding dielectrics, right? And then what do you mean by the dielectric strain? What do you mean by the dielectric strain? The dielectric strength of is the maximum electric field that a dielectric can tolerate without breakdown. That means dielectric strength is the maximum electric field that can tolerate by the dielectric before breakdown. That is the dielectric strength of the medium. Okay, clear? Clear to all? So this is the concept of dielectric and dielectric strength, right? Okay. Now, next topic is the convection and conduction of current. Okay, convection and conduction of current. Convection and conduction of current is very important in respect of electromagnetic wave. When an electromagnetic wave is propagated with a medium, it may be in free space or maybe in water, maybe in solid. Each of the medium have their permeability. according to the permeabilities, the speed of the propagation of the electromagnetic wave increase or decrease. In that case, the propagation of the current is directly related to the convection current or conduction current. Now, first of all, we know the basic definitions of the current, the conventional basic definitions of the current we know about. We know that current I it can be represent the rate of change of charge with respect to time, right? Current I is expressed as dq dt, rate of change of charges with respect to time, right? Now we know that the SI unit of the current is equal to ampere. Now, what is the definitions of 1 ampere? The current in 1 ampere, the amount of 1 ampere current that gives, it is the passing of electric charge through a unit time. That means that if 1 coulomb of charge passing through in 1 second, the amount of current is equals to 1 ampere. That means that the current of 1 ampere being transferred at a rate of 1 coulomb per second. Right? Okay, that is the conventional equation, conventional definitions of the current. Now, if we express this current into current densities, how we can express in current densities? In point form or dot form, or it is differentiation form or integration form. In electromagnetic field, each of the parameters you can express in differentiation form or integrate form. Now, if the current density, J is the current density, and del I is the change of current, and del S is the change of surface area. So, the rate of change of current, with rate of change of surface area, that is given by the current density, and which is expressed as Jn is equals to del I by del S. That is equation number 178. And from this equation, we can also express del I is equals to Jn into del S. Now, this equation 179 that specifies that the current density in a perpendicular to the surface. So, this can be expressed in dot form, okay, and if the current density is not normal to the surface, then this expression can be denoted as del I is equals to J dot del S, and that equation 180 is called the current of differentiation form, right? Okay, and if we calculate the total current, if you calculate the total current of the surface, flowing through the surface, then we can denote it as capital I is equals to surface integral of J dot ds. And this equation number 181, that represents the current in integral form, and 180, that is represent the current in differentiation form. We have already know that each parameter in the electromagnetic field, we have expressed in differentiation form or integration form. Right? Okay. Now this is the concept of current in differentiation form or integration form. Right? Okay. Got my points? Now the next important topic I have already discussed just earlier, polarization of the dielectrics. As we mentioned earlier that the polarization is occur in that situation if in a surface there are numbers of charge carriers, positive charge carriers or negative charge carriers are there, and if you apply an electric field over it. Now when you apply an electric field, the positive charge are displaced from its earlier equilibrium point or earlier equilibrium position in the direction of E by the force of F plus is equal to Q into E. That means all the positive charge are extracted with a force of positive QE and displaced from its equilibrium point in the direction of the electric field, positive direction of the electric field, while the negative charge is also displaced from in its equilibrium position, earlier equilibrium position, but the opposite direction of the electric field, and the force which is applied, that is equal to F minus is equals to minus of QE. So the separation of the charges in different two directions, that result are electric dipole, and this electric dipole result from the displacement of the charges and the dielectric, and this phenomena is called polarization. This phenomena is called polarization. Right? Okay. And how we can express this polarization with respect to mathematical equation? Now, if positive Q plus Q is the positive point charges and minus Q is the negative point charges, and if the distance between positive Q and negative Q is equals to small d. Now, if an electric after applying any electric field, so there is an electric polarized state when you apply an electric field. So the electric cloud is destroyed from the applied force, and the charge are distributed equally with two different directions, and it is mathematically expressed as capital P is equals to Q into D. Capital P is equals to Q into D. And this is the expression of the polarization of the field. Q is the charge of Q is the charge, and D is the distance between the positive charge and negative charge. If we assume there are two charges in the surface, but if there are n numbers of dipoles in a volume of del V, so if you consider there is a volume, small v is there, and in this small volume there is a number of n numbers of dipoles are there. Dipole means positive and negative pole. If there is a positive Q, there must be a negative Q. That's why it is called dipole. Right? So, if there are n numbers of dipoles is there in a volume of del V, then this polarization equation of the polarization will modify to another equation that will represent as Q1 into D1, Q2 into D2 plus Q3 into D3 dot Qn into Dn. So the addition of this equation that gives the polarization of the n numbers of dipoles. And the general equation of these n numbers of dipole we can express as summation of k is equals to 1 to n q k d k. Summation of 1 to n, that is q k d k. Right? So equation number 183 that represent the polarization from the n numbers of dipole. Right? Okay. Now there are another expression. By this equation we can measure the intensity of the polarization. And we can define the polarization in respect of Coulomb per meter square. And the dipole moment per unit volume of dielectric, dipole moment of per unit volume of the dielectric, that is expressed in the equation capital P is equals to limit del V tends to 0. That means we take a very small volume. Limit del V tends to 0, summation of q k dk by del V. That is the equations of the dipole moment per unit volume of dielectric. This is expressed by the equation number 184. Right? Now, from this dipole moment of polarizations of the dipole and dielectric medium, now we come to in electrostatic field, how many types of dielectrics are there? What are the types of the dielectric medium? Right? So, in electromagnetic field, there are basically 3 types of dielectric mediums are there. What are they? First one is linear, second one isotropic, and third one homogeneous. These are the 3 important dielectrics. First one is linear, second one is isotropic, and third one is homogeneous. Now, you have to remember the points over it. Now, which dielectric is called linear dielectrics? The dielectric material which capital D is equals to epsilon into E. That means the dielectric who, who, who whose obey this equation. Here epsilon is the constant. Then this dielectric is called the linear dielectric. And the characteristics of this dielectric is that it does not change. The dielectric values does not change after applying a external electric field E. Right? Okay. Second is the homogeneous dielectric. Now, what are the homogeneous dielectrics? The homogeneous dielectrics are those dielectrics whose characteristics of the medium is similar to each other. That's why it is called homogeneous. And one of the important point you have to remember for the homogeneous dielectric is that the homogeneous dielectric does not change its value from point to point. That means if point charges is changed from one point to another point, and those points are in two different dielectric medium, but if their characteristics do not change after the point to point shifting, then those two dielectric mediums are called homogeneous dielectric medium. Right? Okay. Next, that is called the isotropic. The isotropic dielectrics are those dielectrics which do not change the value of epsilon with change of direction. So that are called the isotropic dielectrics. Okay, now in electromagnetic field, there is a concept of boundary condition. Now, what do you mean by the boundary condition? Boundary condition means that if an electromagnetic wave is propagated from one medium to another medium, then the properties of the wave will change. But if you know the boundary condition for the particular two mediums, in between the particular two mediums, then we can analyze the electromagnetic wave velocity or electromagnetic wave power if the medium is changed from one medium to another medium. Right? Because when the medium is changed, then the characteristics of the electromagnetic wave is also changed. For example, if a electromagnetic wave is propagated with a free air, right? But after sometime it enter into the water level. So entering into the water, that is the change of the dielectric medium, change the dielectric characteristics. Then at the boundary of the water and the air, there are some important characteristics over there. And those are called the boundary conditions. Right? Those are called the boundary conditions. And when you derive the boundary condition, when you determine the boundary condition, you have to know the continuity equation and relaxation time over there. So, what is continuity equation and what is the relaxation time? Right? Now, what is continuity equation? Continuity equation basically based on principle of charge conservation. Right? We know the charge conservation law. Charge is neither created nor destroyed. It will transfer from one position to another position. So the time of when the charge is charging or discharging, the time rate of discharging of a charge from a volume, that gives the equal to the net outward current flow through the closed surface of the volume. Now, if you take a volume, okay, so the total, if you take a total charge volume, then the time rate of discharging within the given volume, that must be equal to the net outward current flow through the closed surface of the volume. We know that current flow is nothing but the shifting of charge from one position to another position, or it is the change of the charge with respect to time. That's why if I out is the total outward current of the closed surface, then I out is also denoted as closed surface integral of J dot ds, total current J dot ds. J is the current density, D is the differential area. And it will be also expressed in conventional equation, I out is equals to ddt of q in. But here we express of discharging current, that's why I write minus of ddt of q in. So q in, that is equals to the total charge enclosed by the surface. Total charge enclosed by the surface. Right? So this is denoted as equation number A. Now, according to our divergence theorem, we know that closed surface integral of J dot ds is equals to volume integral of del dot J dv. Right? And it is denoted as equation number B. So, from equation number B and equation number A, we can write ddt of q in is equals to minus ddt of q in is equals to minus of ddt of volume integral of rho v dv, because we know that q in is equals to total charge that will be expressed as volume integral of rho v dv. Q in is equals to rho v dv, total volume charge. So we can express this equation q minus q ddt of q in is equals to minus ddt of integration of rho v dv. Now it will be also expressed as ddt of rho v dv, because rho v volume charges have three different components are there. That's why it will be expressed in del form. So minus q ddt of q in is equals to minus volume integral of rho v ddt of rho v dv, that is expressed as equation number C. Now if we compare equation number A, B and C, volume integral of del dot j dv is equals to volume integral of rho v dv dt into dv. So if we compare these two equations, we can write that del dot j is equals to minus of del del t of rho v. That means the gradient of current density, that is equals to the rate of change of that means rho v is equals to rho v is volume density, right? So this equation 185 that is expressed, this equation 185 that express the continuity equation of the current, right? That gives the continuity equation of the current. Okay, got my point? Clear? Now, related to another one small parameter, that is called relaxation time. Relaxation time is one of the important parameter when you calculate the numerical problem regarding bound eddy condition. Now, what do you mean by relaxation time? Relaxation time basically mathematically expressed as TR, T suffix R is equal to epsilon by R. But the definition of this relaxation time is that the relaxation time is the time it takes the time if a charge is placed in the interior of the material and it drops its 36.8% of its initial value. That means if you take a charge and placed in an interior of the material, then it reduces its charge up to 36.8% of its initial charge value. So reducing time, this reducing time is called the relaxation time, and mathematically it is expressed as TR is equals to epsilon by R. So according to the permeability of the medium epsilon, according to the permeability of the medium epsilon, we can determine the value of the relaxation time. Okay, right? Got my points? বোঝা গেছে তো? Next topic is called the boundary condition. Just I told that is boundary condition is very important for calculating of the electric field for homogeneous medium. Now, what is the concept of the boundary condition? The concept of the boundary condition is that if a electromagnetic wave is propagated with a medium with only one medium, then there will be no required of the boundary condition. But if a electromagnetic wave that propagates from one medium to another medium, that needs a boundary condition. Because when a electromagnetic wave that propagate from emit from one medium and entering to the another medium, so there will be a characteristic change. There will be a characteristic change in the propagation of the medium, because the permeability of each of the medium are different, the characteristics of the each of the medium are different, then the propagation velocity of the electromagnetic wave will differ. So, if we have considered the existence of an electric field in an homogeneous medium, what do you mean by homogeneous medium? If the characteristics of the medium are similar. Now, if the field exists in a region, if an electromagnetic field exists in a region that consists of two different mediums, say air and water, say air and solid, say solids and water. Okay, if any electromagnetic field that exists in the region where two different mediums are there, right? So the condition that the field must satisfy at the interface separating the medium, this is called boundary condition. This is called boundary condition. right? I am repeat again. If a field is exists, electromagnetic field, electrostatic field, electromagnetic field exists in that region where two different mediums are there, right? But homogeneous medium. Then the condition that the field must satisfy at the interface separating the medium, that is called the boundary condition. Each of the different medium have different boundary conditions. What is the applications of this boundary condition? These boundary conditions are very helpful when you determining the electric field of one side of the boundary is known and another side of the boundary is unknown. Right? If you know the one side of the boundary condition, you have to determine the field of the other side of the boundary. That means if you know the boundary condition of air and water, and you know the electric field in the air, but you cannot know the electric field of the water, and we cannot measure it. So if you know the boundary conditions of water and electric, then we can calculate it by the applications of the boundary condition. Right? So that is the basic concept of the boundary condition. Now, the boundary condition is the another application of the boundary condition is that it can detect the type of the material of the medium by this application of the boundary condition. If you do not know the material of the second medium, so second medium, by application of this boundary condition, we can determine which types of material used, which types of material are in the second boundary or second medium. Right? Okay. Now, what are the types? What are the types of boundary conditions? Basically, there are three types of the boundary condition at interface separately. What are they? First one is the boundary condition between dielectric and dielectrics. First one is the boundary condition between dielectric and dielectric. For example, that air and paper, air and wood. These are the different permeability. Air have a different permeability, water has different permeability, paper has different permeability. So there must be a different boundary condition between the different dielectric medium. So if we take a material which have two different permeabilities are there, right? Then the boundary condition you have to know according to their permeabilities. So these are called the dielectrics of the permeabilities. So that is the first category, boundary condition between the dielectrics and the dielectrics. Now the next category of the boundary condition in between conductor and dielectric. Next category of the dielectric is conductor and dielectrics. In that category, examples are there is a conductor like copper, aluminum with respect to air. This belongs to that category. And next category is the conductor and free space. Now these are the three different boundary conditions you have to remember. Now what is the approach? What is the approach when you determine the boundary condition? To determine the boundary condition, we have to apply the Maxwell equation. We have to use the Maxwell equation. The two important Maxwell equation to determine the boundary condition is that first is closed integral of E dot dl is equals to 0. Okay, closed integral of E dot dl is equals to 0. That is the first condition, first equation. And closed integral of d dot ds is equals to q enclosed. It is from Gauss law, right? So to applications of these two equations, we can determine the boundary condition of each cases. But when you determine the boundary condition, you have to remember one particular point. The point is that you decompose, you need to decompose the electrostatic field intensity E into two orthogonal components. That means E component. Okay, one is a tangential component and another is normal component. So after decompose of the electric field intensity E, okay, electric field intensity E into tangential component and normal component, okay, tangential component and normal component, we can determine the boundary condition by application of, okay, by application of these two Maxwell equations. Okay, so that is the concept of boundary condition, right? What my point? Okay, give the attendance. Give the attendance in the chat box. Roll number 14. roll number 1, roll number 1, roll number 14, roll number 3, roll number 6, roll number 12, roll number 11, roll number 2, roll number 10. তোমাদের অ্যাটেন্ডেন্স এত কম কেন? আগের দিনও তাই ছিল। এনি পার্টিকুলার রিজন? শেয়ার কোথায়?
Yes, sir.
Any particular reason?
No, sir. Few people are having net problem.
Net problem?
Yes, sir. Mostly that.
ওকে, মানে বহু জায়গায় এখনো পর্যন্ত তো জল নামেনি, সেই জন্য হয়তো নেট প্রবলেম হতে পারে, মেবি। Not attending the class, please collect my notes and go through it. Okay, if any doubts, then WhatsApp me. Next, so next topic is that is Poisson's equations and Laplace equations. We have already know these two equations, Poisson's equations and Laplace equation. Poisson's equations and Laplace equation are very easily derived from the Gauss law. Right? We, according to Gauss law, we know that divergence of electric field density, that is del dot D, that is equals to del dot epsilon into E. Right? Because we just proved in the in the today's class that is D is equals to epsilon into E. So del dot D is equals to del dot epsilon E. And in earlier equation, we have already proved that del dot D is equals to rho V, or del dot epsilon E is equals to rho V, the volume charge density. So this is our equation 186 that represent that equating from Gauss law. And another important equation we have already proved that. Yes,
sir.
Yes. Yes. Bolo. Yes, any problem? Bolo. Hello.
Hello, sir.
Yes, follow. Subodip. Another equation we have already, another Maxwell equation we have proved in earlier, that is the E is equals to del V. E is equals to del V. It is already proved. Now, the earlier equation we can express as 186.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, I have some network issues, so I give the attendance in the chat box now. Can you please note it?
Roll number 13.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, okay. Okay, I mark it. Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Let's continue. So, these two equations, equation number 186.
Also present.
Yes.
Man. Roll number 8.
Okay, I mark it. ও তো পেয়েছি তো, 1 minute. I am repeat again the all the attendance, right? Roll number 8, roll number 14, roll number 3, roll number 6, roll number 12, roll number 11, roll number 2, roll number 10, roll number 16, roll number 13. Okay,
Roll number
any
8
other
present.
else? Any other else? Roll number 8.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Roll number 8.
Okay. Any other else? Any other else? Okay. Now continue. So we have already proved these two equations. One is del dot D is equals to rho V. Another is electric field intensity, that is E is equals to the gradient of electric potential. It is one of the important Maxwell equation already proved. So that is equation number 186 and that is equation number 187. Now, if we substituting the value of E, that is del V in the equation 186, then we can write del dot epsilon del V, del dot epsilon del V is equals to rho V. Just we put the value of E in the equation number 186. Now here the epsilon, this is minus epsilon, right? This is minus epsilon. So here epsilon is the permeability of the medium, that is a constant. So del dot del V we can express as del square V, right? Del dot del V we can express is as a del square V. So equation number 188 that modify to another equation, that is del square V. Del square V is equals to minus of del rho V by epsilon, minus of rho V by epsilon from this equation, right? Okay. So we can write if minus del square V is equals to minus of rho V into epsilon. There is a and that is denoted by the equation number 189. And this equation basically satisfy the homogeneous medium, or the homogeneous medium. And this equation is called del square V is equals to minus rho V by epsilon. That is called Poisson's equation. That is called the Poisson's equation. Right? This is called the Poisson's equation. Now, from this equation, we can derive the Laplace equation for a special case. Now, if the charge density, volume charge density of any volume is equals to 0, that means if we apply the Poisson's equation in a free region, charge free region, right? If we apply this equation in charge free region, in that case, for charge free region, volume charge density rho V is equals to 0, right? Now, if rho V is equals to 0, we can write rho square del square V is equals to 0, right? So del square V is equals to 0. That is equation number 190, right? So equation number 190 is called the Laplace equation. Equation number 190 is called the Laplace equation. Right? Okay. Now, we know that equation number 190, 189, that is Poisson's equation, that is rho square V is equals to minus rho square del square V is equals to minus rho V by epsilon. This is applicable for the homogeneous medium, right? Okay, and if rho V is equals to 0 in the Poisson's equation, then this equation, Poisson's equation, becomes the Laplace equation, right? So we have already know the another differentiation form of the Laplacian equation for three different coordinate systems. One for Cartesian, one for cylindrical, and one for spherical coordinate. The Laplacian for the Cartesian coordinate, that is given by del square V by del x square plus del square V by del y square plus del square V by del z square is equal to 0. This equation for Cartesian coordinate. Now, the Laplacian for a cylindrical coordinate, it can expressed as 1 by rho del rho of rho del V del rho plus 1 by rho del square V by del phi square plus del square V by del z square is equals to 0. This is the Laplacian equation for the cylindrical coordinate. This is the Laplacian equation for the cylindrical coordinate. Right? Okay. And the third, that for the spherical coordinate, the Laplacian equation can be denoted as 1 by r square del r of r square del v del r plus 1 by r square sin theta del theta of sin theta del v del theta plus 1 by r square sin square theta del square v by del phi square is equals to 0. So this is the form of the derivative form of the Laplacian equation, is another form. So the conclusion is that in the Poisson's equation, if we apply the Poisson's equation in a charge-free region, then this equation become a Laplacian equation. Then this equation become a Laplacian equation. Okay. Right. So my last topic for today's class is the uniqueness theory. Okay, uniqueness theory. Now, what is the uniqueness theory? Now, what is the applications of uniqueness theory? Why it is needed? The uniqueness theorem is based on the solution of Laplace equation. Okay, solution of Laplace equation. Now, there are several methods by which we can solve the Laplace equation. We can solve the Laplace equation by analytically. We can solve the Laplace equation by graphically. We can solve the Laplace equation by numerically. So there are different methods of solution of Laplace equation. So there will be a different way of solution of a given equation of a Laplace. So the solution are also different. But if a solution of Laplace equation satisfies with a given set of boundary conditions, then there will be only one solution of the Laplace equation, that is called the unique solution of the Laplace equation. That means if we apply several methods, graphical, analytical or numerical, but if we follow to satisfy the following boundary condition for a particular solution, then the solution is unique regardless is any method, right? And this is called the uniqueness theorem, right? So thus any solution of Laplace equation which satisfy the same boundary condition must be have only one solution regardless of any method. So this is called the uniqueness theorem. That means this theorem gives a unique solution of a particular Laplace equation, whatever the method is. But condition is that all the methods must be followed for a particular boundary condition. So this theorem gives any solution of Poisson's and Laplace equation in a given region or a closed surface. Right? So that is called the uniqueness theory. Right? Now, how you can prove this theorem? Okay, it is theorem. The theorem proved by contradiction method. That means if we assume, okay, if we assume a particular unique solution and we assume that these solutions are unique, but after taking the unique solution, if our process and conclusion is see that this is the unique value, then we can say that our hypothesis is correct. But if we take the unique solution and we get non-unique solution, the solutions are different, then we can say that our hypothesis is wrong, right? So that is the way of prove the contradiction theorem by uniqueness theorem, right? So we assume that there are two solutions of a Laplace equation. One solution is V1, another solution is V2. Okay, one solution is V1 and another solution is V2. Right? Now, both of which satisfy the prescribed boundary condition. That means we assume that in a one particular Laplace equation, we get two different solutions. One is V1, another is V2. But both solutions satisfy the prescribed boundary condition. Right? Now, if both of the equations satisfy the prescribed boundary condition, then we can write del square V1 is equal to 0 and del square V2 also is equal to 0, because they satisfy, they obey the specified boundary condition. That's why del square V1 is equals to 0 and del square V2 is equals to 0 according to the Laplace equation, or according to the special case of Poisson's equation. Now, if we can say that del square V1 is equals to 0 and del square V2 is equals to 0, this is equation number 1, then we can also say that V1 is equal to V2 on that boundary, because both of the equations satisfy the boundary condition. So that is equation number B. Now, we assume that there will be some minimum difference between the solution of V1 and V2. Now, if we assume that there is some difference between the solution of V1 and V2, then we can denote it as Vd is equals to V2 minus V1. Vd is the difference between V1 and V2. So we can write the equation number C, that is Vd. Vd is equals to V2 minus V1, right? Now, this is denoted as equation number C. Now, if Vd is equals to V2 minus V1, then we can write del square Vd is equals to del square V2 minus del square V1, right? Del square V2 minus del square V1. So, del square Vd is equals to del square V2 minus del square V1. But we know from equation number A that del square V1 is equals to 0 and del square V2 is equals to 0. So, we can write del square Vd, that means difference, Laplacian of the difference between two solutions is equals to 0. So, we can write also difference Vd is equals to 0 on that boundary condition, right? So, that is the equation number E. Now, according to the divergence theorem, According to the divergence theorem, we get volume integral of del dot A dV, volume integral of del dot A dV is equals to closed surface integral of A dot ds. No, so according to divergence theorem, we can know that del dot A dV, okay, del dot A dV, uh, volume integral of del dot A dV is equals to surface integral of A dot ds. And this is equation number F. Now, if we express the variable A in the form of vector identity, is the difference of the Laplacian Vd, we can express as Vd del Vd. So, del A we can represent as del dot Vd del Vd. So, Vd into del square Vd, right, plus del Vd constant of del of Vd is equals to Vd, right? Now, we can also know that del square Vd, that will prove del square Vd is equals to 0. So, this term will be 0. This term will be 0. So, if this term will be 0, then del dot A is equals to del Vd dot del Vd. Only the second term exists, this term 0. Now, if we substituting in equation number G into equation number F, that means if we substituting del dot A, del Vd dot del Vd, we can express this equation number F in the form, that means volume integral of del Vd dot del Vd dV is equals to closed surface integral of del Vd del V dot del V dot ds, right? But we also know that the closed surface integral of any variable, that is equal to 0. So the right hand part of this equation number H is equals to 0. So we can write volume integral of del mod of del V square, because del V dot del V, that we can express as mod of del V square. So volume integral of mod of del V square dV is equals to 0. Right? Now, the integration of this value, is always positive because there is a modulus. So if this is value is positive value, then del V is equals to 0. Right? Okay. So we can express that the difference between the two solution of the Laplace, that is Vd is equals to V2 minus V1, that is equals to constant in everywhere of the V, that is equal to 0. And from equation number I, we must consider that Vd is equals to 0, then del Vd also 0. So V1 minus V2 is equals to 0. If V1 minus Vd is equal to 0, then we can write V1 is equal to V2 on the boundary. So we, as the assumption of our solution, that means V1 and V2 are not different. V1 and V2, the solution of the Laplace equation V1 and V2 are the same, and that proves the uniqueness theorem. That proves the uniqueness theorem. So this is the uniqueness theorem, the solution of this Laplace equation in the boundary condition. If satisfy the boundary condition, then the solution is unique. Okay, if the satisfy the same boundary condition, then the solution is unique. Okay, that is the proof of the uniqueness theory. Okay, clear? Clear to all? Clear to all? I already uploaded all the notes in the, including this note, in your Google Classroom. Okay, please go through this note, ডাউনলোড করো গুগল ক্লাসরুমের নোটগুলো, পড়তে থাকো। পড়তে পড়তেও যদি আমি তোমাদের বুঝিয়ে দিচ্ছি, পড়তেও যদি কোনো কোনো জায়গায় আটকায়, সেটা তুমি আমাকে হোয়াটসঅ্যাপ করবে। ওকে, so already your 70% syllabus will be covered, 30% left. Only two chapter is left. One is electromagnetism and another is Maxwell. Maxwell equation is covered 10 to 20% of the Maxwell equation is already covered, but remaining are discussed in this later. Okay, so I will try to complete the syllabus before Puja vacation. Okay, if because after Puja you have the second midterm. Okay, I'll complete this before Puja vacation, and then after your midterm, if I take much number of classes, then I will discuss the numerical problem, extra numerical problem regarding this, right? Okay, I will end the class for today. Okay, next class in Tuesday. Okay, thank you Thank you for attending the class. Download the notes from Google Classroom and